Well, as you can see from my videos, I like to tinker, modify things, and I love arcades. I have a small arcade in my basement, and so I always like to try to see if we can miniaturize things or modify something. So today I want to take apart the 1943 mini arcade stick from New Wave Toys. I don't think anybody else on eBay's taking one of these apart, so I think maybe, hopefully I'll be the first, but I always like to try to put out something that's halfway educational. So first thing you want to do is there's a little rubber feet here on the back side, and you can pop these off with a sharp knife or whatever. And then I've already done 3 of them, so I wanted to take, these are just little adhesive rubber pads, and they can pull right off. And then you take a precision Phillips screwdriver, and there are 4 screws, and we're going to remove all 4 of these screws out of the back side. And it's always nice to have a nice magnetized screwdriver to help aid into removing these screws. And I'll use a little spade tool here to go up underneath to grab this plastic and then pop this off. Now it's somewhat tight here. It's a pretty tight fit. If you work it out, you can get it off here. Once you work this up a little bit, and then you can pull this off, and that's your bottom. And they do have a weight underneath here to give that joystick some solidity when you have it sitting or moving it around when you're using it. And the rubber feet do help aid in keeping that from slipping around. Okay, now we're presented with the circuit board, and then we have 2 front push buttons, and then the joystick assembly is over here, and then this circuit board is basically held in place with the bottom plate that you just removed. So we are going to be very careful and pull up the circuit board here. Get this broke loose, and then we're going to rotate it forward because there's a couple little buttons here that in their front, they will fall out. So now we get our first look at the inside, and there's the joystick, push buttons, and then the circuit board. And you see the push buttons are activated by little micro switches. These are little bitty micro switches here. They do have a pretty good click to them. And then all the joystick is sitting here, and the joystick is held in place with 4 screws. And then the first thing we want to do is undo this screw to take out the stick. This will release the stick, the little bat, the joystick bat. Then we can get rid of this. There again, the magnetic screwdriver comes in handy. All right, so then we'll pull out the bat. So then here is the small bat. And actually, these are quite small. It's pretty unique, all this stuff. And then we take 3 screws that hold the joystick in, and they are the same size screws that hold the bottom plate on, so you don't have to worry about mixing these screws up. These are all the same size here. And then we'll put those on the side, and then we had to pull that stick out to make sure this comes all the way out, otherwise it won't come out. All right, so once we got all those out, now we can simply lift the stick out. All right, so now we just gotta, here's the buttons. Basically, they're just held in place, and then you got these 2 smaller buttons here that will just fall right out too. Matter of fact, they all will just come out like that. And so there's the little buttons that actually push on the micro switches, and then the small joystick. This is what gets me, is this little joystick. Look how small this little guy is. And then it's got micro switches, just like a regular joystick. It's just a miniature version. So when we put the bat back in, just to show you here how it moves, here's the joystick, and which is probably not any more than about 1 inch square. And there's all 4 micro switches. They did ground all the micro switches, and then you've got up, down, right, and left inputs that are on the circuit board right here. And then to put this thing back together, you just reverse everything that I did here. But if you wanted to use this little joystick in a project, make a small control panel, you could also actually utilize these buttons if you wanted to, but you'd have to have some kind of a foundation to mount these micro switches on, because these aren't self-contained push buttons. But the joystick indeed can be used in a project. So I hope you found this useful, and I'm probably going to try to incorporate that in some little project I've got coming up, and make a smaller control panel yet for a game or something. So, okay, see you all later.